Hi, this is Blair Pleasant. I'm here with my fellow BCStrategies experts, and today we're going to just have a general discussion about topics that resonated with us pretty much since the beginning of 2025. What were some of the key announcements or trends we heard recently, and what's their impact on the UC, CC, CX world? So I'm going to start. A few announcements that really resonated with me were around targeting non-traditional contact center users and what I call experience workers. And many of you know this has been a big focus of mine for a long time. And in the past few months, there've really been some pretty interesting announcements in this area. Cisco Webex calling customer assist came out. We talked about that at Enterprise Connect, also 8x8 Engage. And these both target frontline workers, branch office workers, mobile workers, and other non-contact center agents, again, what I call experience workers. And it gives them traditional contact center capabilities to help them serve customers across different channels with AI capabilities, and giving them contact center capabilities even though they may be non-traditional agents. Then there's also some that came out targeting SMBs. So there's the brand new TalkDesk Express. Oh, that's a mouthful. So that was just announced, and that's aimed at small businesses with up to 50 employees. And TalkDesk describes it as like a customer service solution in a box. And the idea is to make it easy for customers to try it with no strings attached. So it includes $100 in free credits and 25 free licenses. And again, the idea is to make it really easy to use and set up and onboard agents with self-provisioning, and just make it easy for these small businesses. And they really have been underserved, so I was really happy to see that. Another company that had announcements in this area is GoTo with their GoTo Connect CX, which also targets SMBs and companies with, again, distributed offices, retail stores, franchises, and it provides, again, all the traditional multi-channel AI-based contact center solutions. But this one also offers GoTo's business phone, meetings, and messaging offerings. So it's really a complete all-in-one. Then RingCentral's RingCX. This one isn't a new announcement like the others, but I don't want to leave them out because it has been, this is an announcement that's pretty much in line with what I've been talking about. So it doesn't specifically target SMBs or frontline workers, but it is aimed at that underserved and different segment of the contact center market that maybe doesn't need that full-blown CCaaS offering. So my big theme was new offerings for non-traditional contact centers and contact center agents, or again, what I call experience workers. And I was really glad to see so many announcements in that area. So that's it for my spiel. So Joseph, you are looking really cool in your shades. Why don't we hear from you?
All right, so I'll take a slightly different vector. One of the big announcements in Q1 was Nest ending its support for the first generation thermostats in home. And with my clients, what that brought to mind was all of the platforms that we rely on and we think will be here forever actually won't. And the best example, I'm walking onto the Microsoft campus momentarily, is think about Blair. Microsoft had NetMeeting 20 years ago, then it had Office Communicator, then it had Link, then it had Skype, then it had Skype for Business, now it has Teams. The truth of the matter is Teams is not AI native. I would be willing to bet there's going to be a major rewrite or an acquisition that Microsoft does to come up with a native platform, which means that all the investments that you're making today, all the APIs that you're writing to, everything that you're doing is at risk if it's not agile and portable. And it's just a lesson you got to continually remind yourself of. Enterprise software is not forever. Zoom evolves, contact center software evolves, and you just have to architect, like I said, for flexibility and agility. So that's my spiel.
That was definitely a different approach, but it definitely makes sense. And yeah, we think about, these things, we don't think about them being forever, but certainly the idea that you need to be flexible to keep up with all these changes is just so important. So let's see. John, you're in my top right corner. Why don't we go to you next?
Okay. All right. Here we are, Blair. Yeah, no sunglasses for me today, so I'll just have to be a regular guy. And but on the other hand, I'm not driving, so that's okay. For me, I'd say, aside from anything to do with AI, especially agentic AI, that could go on all day. I'll touch on 2 points. One would be one of the themes I talked about at Enterprise Connect on I think it was the analyst panel or the Lucknow panel. And one of the themes that wasn't getting a lot of attention at the show was the emphasis of RCS and messaging coming into the conversation a little bit more than we're used to seeing. And I'm glad to hear that. And I think there's the timing is getting better, I think, now for these mobile applications to be a richer part of the conversation. Because as we've been seeing, contact center is what we know. What we don't know so much about is where the sales and marketing side of these organizations is going. And their needs for contact center technology really aren't that different than the contact center, but they're focused more on outbound messaging rather than inbound. And that's becoming, I think, an increasingly important kind of storyline in the overall value proposition, as not just contact centers, but the organizations invest in AI. Contact center stuff helps them keep current customers happy, but getting new customers and growing revenues, especially if we're going into a dicey economy, is a pretty important priority. And outbound messaging is a big part of that equation, how brands build their customer bases and keep their basically their pipeline full. And that's increasingly a mobile experience. And as we move towards a world with RCS, hopefully will kind of displace MMS. That may never happen, but the richer communications is more in line with how we communicate on other screens and devices. And mobile is where it's at. And I think that's a storyline we're going to hear more and more, tying mobile capabilities to how brands go to market with their sales and marketing efforts using these very same technologies that we're seeing in the contact center.
Yeah, when I heard that RCS was brought up on the keynote panel, I thought, oh, that must have been Dave Michaels. And then I found out it was you. So,
well, Dave nodded in agreement, let's just say. I think he wished he would have had that one.
But yeah, it's definitely a hot topic that is getting more and more attention. So that's great. Let's see, Kevin, why don't we go to you next?
Yeah, well, thanks, Blair. I'm going to declare Q1 as just the start of a period where we're starting to have a realistic understanding of AI. And by that, what I mean is we're really seeing, convergence from two ends of the spectrum. We had the people that thought AI was going to solve all the problems. And I think these, people and organizations are starting to understand the risks and limitations. You can't just slap AI on your toothbrush and, it's not going to necessarily reduce the number of cavities, although there are AI-powered toothbrushes and AI-powered everything. But at the same time, those that dismiss the kind of new capabilities of generative AI, I think that there's been enough experimentation and they're beginning to understand the risks of effectively dismissing AI as, a fad and just kind of saying we can ignore this. So here's where I think we are and what I believe in, kind of after Q1 of 2025, as we sit here in May of 2025. I'm going to declare that generative AI was never overhyped, but it was often misapplied. I think that this is a transformational technology, and we're, let's say a year and a half into experimentation. I think a lot of organizations and individuals are learning how to best apply it. You are not doing enough training, Blair. I'm sure you'll so whatever training you're doing with respect to AI, you're not doing enough. And that also includes you're not allowing your employees or your admins to have enough time in their work schedule to actually keep up with all of these advancements. And so this is complicated stuff. I learn every week from my BCStrategies experts and from other experts in the field, even though, this is something that I work with both vendors, and as a consultant with large organizations. every week I'm learning new things. So allocate the time and provide the training for your people. AI is going to be incredibly disruptive. I think that contact center vendors and contact center managers, they went through last year, they said this, I don't know, they talked about agent assist. They didn't want to talk about it disrupting. Human agents are going to be disrupted by AI agents. We just saw the CEO of Duolingo. I mean, just talk about how, now AI, they're going to get rid of all their contractors because it took them 12 years to build 100 courses for Duolingo. It teaches new languages. And in the past year, with AI, they've built 148 new courses. So at least 12 times as fast. Now, some people contend, and this is something, if you are one of those people that contend that you can tell if something's written by AI or an image was created by AI, I think you're wrong and you're potentially delusional, because the truth of the matter is most of content and creation is going to be, in the short term, human plus AI assisted. And in the longer term, there's going to be a lot of great content that's created just by AI. And you're not going to be able to tell because it's going to be at or above, human capabilities. And I know we don't want to think that, and we think humans are creative and AI is not, but the reality is when properly applied, that isn't the case. And, the last thing is the understanding of AI and the adoption of it. It is going to determine winners and losers, both on the individual and organizational level. So don't be a loser. Continue to experiment. Try this out. Figure out where it works for you personally and where it works for the organization. Because, I work with both the vendors and the analysts, both the vendors as an analyst and organizations as a consultant. And the truth of the matter is, there is tremendous risk, but there's tremendous upside if this is properly applied. So Q1 2025, the start of the realistic understanding of AI, but just the start. We have a lot more learnings to do. And certainly these are exciting times to be alive, Blair. Back to you.
That's for sure. It's interesting that you talked about that Gen AI wasn't overhyped, because I'm actually working on an article right now talking about the hype, how everything is so hyped, and we need to take a step back and be a little bit more realistic.
I think it was misapplied, right? It was like, it's like people thought in your toolbox, if all you have is a hammer, you can pound in some screws, but it's pretty hard to remove them because you're using the wrong tool. Like, AI is not the solution to everything. Exactly. And so I think that's where it got a bad rap. People just said AI all the time and they ignored everything else, right? So.
Yep. Okay, we can agree on that. But
I'll look forward to your article.
The hype is real, though. Okay, David, why don't we go to you?
All right. So when I'm thinking of what's happening in the quarter, I looked at the big four in UC, what I think of the biggest as the big four in UC: Microsoft, Cisco, Zoom, and Google. And I was thinking, okay, I'm going to talk agentic, maybe a little overlap, but that's what everyone's talking about. And I was trying to put their recent announcements into the context of where we are in our agentic journey. And two things helped me put that into context. A blog or LinkedIn article that David Danto wrote yesterday, the day before, and a comment that Blair posted in response to it. So I'm going to keep this under 2 minutes. There's no way. I'm going to do my best here, though. So the article that David Danto wrote, he was saying that we're all using the word agentic wrong, and I think he was looking for feedback or challenge from AI proponents like myself, saying, "No, stop being negative. You're wrong." But I agreed with what he said, and what he said is, in his mind, agentic is the Star Trek robot. Mm-hmm. His name's Data. I'm not going to say Data because we use Data with AI. It's Star Trek robot, and the Star Trek robot, it acts like a person. It walks around and it does stuff and it takes initiative, and we could treat it like a person. And that's, even David Danto admits, when we get there, that's fully agentic. And we're not there. So I was thinking about where we are. And if if Star Trek robot walked up to me and said, "David, here's your meeting summary," I'd say, and that's where, we're over here, I'd say that's not agentic. If Star Trek robot walks up to me and says, "Here's your meeting summary. I noticed there was some confusion about last quarter's numbers, so I created a spreadsheet for you. Do you want me to share it with the team?" That's fully agentic. And right now, we're in between. We're in here somewhere. We're beyond here's your meeting summary. We're not I did all the stuff for you, but we are getting there. And so that's the first part. And the second part is what Blair said is she has a problem, and I'm with you. For analysts in this industry, agent is already a word that we use that means something specific that isn't this. It's related, but it's not this. An agent is a human being who works in a contact center, period. Don't reuse our terms and make them more confusing. And I'm with you. And there's nothing we can do about it. We're going to have to just take the loss on this one.
Yeah. Just like unified communications, when Microsoft used that term, we already had unified communications that meant something else, and that battle was lost.
We lost, right? Okay, so we're gonna lose this one too. But it got me thinking that human agents, they're the most agentic thing, right? I mean, there is sort of a tie there. You can use it as an analogy. If you want to be, if you can make an AI agent, that would be kind of good evidence that we're getting to agentic. So we look at the announcements. Cisco has a new AI agent that is agentic in the contact center, and Microsoft, I think they called it, I might not have the details, I think they called it sales agent or something like that. So there's a lot of tying along this theme, going towards agentic, making actual agents, and also agentic announcements on the UC side. Zoom Tasks is very agentic. It's not an agent all the way yet. I'm with David Danto. It's not our Star Trek robot, but it's more than a meeting summary. It's along the path. So we're moving there.
So my understanding about the term agentic is that it comes from agency. So yeah,
same root.
And it does make sense, coming from that, because the AI agents do have agency to do things. Again, for me, it's all about the reasoning and doing tasks and doing things on behalf of someone, and that is agency. But yeah, the terminology has just gotten way out of control, but as you said, we've lost the battle on this one. So Nicolas, let's turn to you.
Hey, thanks. I'd like to discuss the trend around agent platform. And the movement was started by Microsoft
what kind of agent?
last year. And I took note of what Zendesk and ServiceNow have been announcing, and you start to see some patterns of what you should expect from a platform. And there's three characteristics that are particularly interesting is, number one, the ability to test. These are not predictable, so testing those agents, you need to provide a brand new tool set to be able to do it. Number two is the ability to iterate and permanently hone and improve what those agents are able to do. And number three is control. In the realm of customer service, we want defined, repeatable processes. So there's an element of agentic where you have some autonomy that is taken by AI that needs some form of control. So those three elements are becoming a clear expectation from a platform that we see emerging, and there's a lot of work being done by the three players I mentioned in that front. The second thing which is interesting about those platforms is you kind of see that they operate like a workflow engine that orchestrates different agents. And it's becoming a new paradigm for adding AI capabilities on top of contact center and customer service operation. And I find it striking that there's a growing numbers of vendors that are no longer saying, okay, to go to AI, you have to move to cloud. Now, growingly, people say, well, you can overlay capabilities on top of your existing infrastructure. And not only the emerging agentic platform providers are telling that, but more traditional players such as Verint or Avaya, with its recently announced Infinity. It's all about bringing AI capabilities on top of what you have in your enterprise. So very interesting developments from my standpoint. Over to you, Blair.
Yeah, as soon as you mentioned the word orchestration, I thought of Avaya and the new Infinity announcement, because it's all about orchestration. And it really is important. And I think we'll be hearing more and more from other vendors about that, because such an important aspect of pulling everything together. Well, I think these were some great topics, and I think based on what we heard, the second half of 2025 is going to be very, very exciting. Before we sign off, does anybody have anything that they want to add or build on? Okay, I think we covered it. So some great things to be thinking about. And again, the second half of 2025 is going to be very exciting. Things are moving so fast, we can't keep up with that. But that's why BC Strategies is so important, because we're here to try to keep up on top of everything. And we have experts in different areas, like David is our video guru, and Kevin, our Microsoft expert. So we all have our different areas of expertise and come together in these podcasts to hopefully not disagree too much, but bring different perspectives. So thank you all for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye all. Thanks.